Is it just me, or are you being way less crass than you could be? Yes, I am. I'm being way less crass than I normally would be because I know that a lot of liberals are going to be in their fifis and they're going to turn around and look for anyone to yell at that they possibly can to try and position themselves as like the real anti-Trump people, not realizing that their actions, the actions of Joe Biden led to Donald Trump. They just don't want to recognize that because then the party that they maintain loyalty to will be the wrong party here. Oh my God, everyone is talking about Biden's ass cancer. Okay, it. Let's talk about Biden's ass cancer. Yes, President Joe Biden has prostate cancer, his office announces. He's reviewing treatment options. Last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9, grade group 5, with a metastasis to the bone. While this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The president and his family are reviewing treatment options with his physicians. Knowing that evil never dies, I don't think that this 95-year-old man is actually going to die from this ass cancer or prostate cancer. Yeah, wishing him a speedy recovery so we can run in 2028, you know? Here, let's get the CNN.
But of course, this is a somewhat optimistic diagnosis. They say the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, allowing for effective management. But of course, it is quite serious if it has spread to his bones. Again, they're describing it as an aggressive form of prostate cancer, Frederica. We have reached out to the White House for comment from the Trump administration on this development and waiting to hear more from President Biden and his family as the time goes by. But
I can't wait for the liberals to talk about how up the left is for saying they don't care, myself included, that we don't care that Biden has prostate cancer. I can't believe that he's the one who got it and not like Dick Cheney and everybody else too. Why do they glaze him so much even now? What do you mean, dude? This is the primary directive of mainstream news is to whitewash and launder the reputation of war criminals once they are on the verge of death or after they pass. It's a major part of how this works.
Former President Biden and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, were on The View last week. Anna, jarring is the word that David Axelrod just used. How would you describe how this news hits, given that yours was one of the last big interviews with him last week ahead of his diagnosis?
Look,
so
I
jarring.
think jarring is the word.
Jarring is the word. He's already dead. He's basically been propped up.
Somebody you love or you
He's basically been propped up with a stick up his ass that keeps his spine erect for the past multiple years at this point. What do you mean? He's been dead. What are we talking about?
With fear, it comes with
it's not jarring.
Uncertainty.
His brain is doo-doo. He doesn't even know what any of this is. Olivia Giuliana crashing out.
For joining us
she's saying she's crashing out and saying all those who spent the past week shaming him have been shaming the man with cancer instead of the felon deporting children with cancer. First of all, people didn't even know that he had cancer. And secondly, that his cancer diagnosis doesn't change the dynamic at all. His selfishness and his interest in the continuation of dead Palestinian children unironically contributed to the Trump victory. So if you hate the orange man, and if you say orange man bad, you have to remember that Joe Biden's ineptitude and his selfish interest in maintaining his grip of power is directly responsible for orange man winning power. There is no like, wow, I hope you feel good about yourself. Like, yeah, dude, I don't feel good. You want to know why I don't feel good? Because there is no karmic justice on this planet. There is no justice whatsoever. And there's certainly no karma, no karmic justice whatsoever. Because Joe Biden has seen the entirety of his life. He went all the way up into his 90s. He actually became the president. He oversaw some of the worst American foreign policy decisions. He oversaw the undermining of international rule-based order directed by Joe Biden himself. So much death and so much destruction. And he opened up the floodgates of Donald Trump for a second term. So no, I don't care that he got prostate cancer at the age of 90. Get the hell out of here. And this is before we even talk about his track record leading up to his election.
Former
Doing
president.
that is because every week that passes makes it all that more, all the more less likely for him to be off the ballot. He is trying to crawl, not towards the finish line being November 5th. He's trying to crawl to the convention. Remember, these are some of the dirty tricks that this war criminal old man pulled off in an effort to ensure that there wasn't enough time to replace him. When his brain was dookie, him and all of the people surrounding him actively tried to make sure that he could go, he could basically make it to the next step in the process so that no one could replace him, so that he would be the one who runs against Donald Trump. And being November 5th, he's trying to crawl to the convention, which is so fucking gross. Once people recognize that reality, I suspect they'll be a little bit more angry. I don't think people have noticed that yet. I've been saying this now since the debate. He is literally trying to desperately get to the convention, so it becomes a matter of it's not even a question at that point. Because every day that passes by, is it just me, or are you being way less crass than you could be? Yes, I am. I'm being way less crass than I normally would be, because I know that a lot of liberals are going to be in their fifis, and they're going to turn around and look for anyone to yell at that they possibly can to try and position themselves as the real anti-Trump people, not realizing that their actions, the actions of Joe Biden, led to Donald Trump. They just don't want to recognize that, because then the party that they maintain loyalty to will be the wrong party here.
Do you think that Joe Biden really would have been able to perform as president all the way through January 2029 when he would be 86?
Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that.
Ay, ay, ay.
So it's not about age. It's about the ability to do the job. And I never saw anything that allowed me to think that Joe Biden was not able to do the job. Just that simple.
The debate didn't make you concerned about whether or not he could do the job?
Absolutely it did. I never saw any of that. I didn't see the tapes from her interview. And I watched that debate. And you and I talked about it. And yes, I was concerned. Now, the question is this a condition or is this an incident? And I have had incidents when I was looking for my glasses and had them on.
Yeah, bro, you should also quit. What are we doing? Yes, you are also entirely too old. Are you scared of being yelled at by liberals, or do you find some value in being more tempered? You fell off, Onk. I don't care. I'm tired, and I'm angry, and I don't think that him getting cancer is even justice. Okay, it is not even a fraction of what Joe Biden deserves, and now everyone is going to act like he's already dead. Our campaign bent over backwards to accommodate them. The VP broke on Biden with Gaza. She met them. Senior leadership met with them. Uncommitted leadership told us they knew the VP was better than Biden and Trump, but they needed to win so they could rationalize their antics. Yeah, this guy is former director of rapid response for Kamala Harris, formerly delivering words on behalf of Joe Biden, still defending the Kamala Harris campaign. Joe Biden, outside of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, Joe Biden is perhaps the second most responsible party for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris is a close third, and her campaign is a close third, but Joe Biden is literally the second most responsible party for Donald Trump. So if you hate Donald Trump, as I do, you have to recognize that reality. If you don't recognize that reality, you are deluding yourself. Who's the most responsible party for Donald Trump? Obviously, Donald Trump is most responsible, and the Republican Party is most responsible for Donald Trump. He is Donald Trump himself. But the second most responsible party in this situation is Joe Biden, due to his ambition, due to his horrible management, due to his lack of interest in stepping aside, living in the aftermath of that disastrous consequence of Trump won. The Democratic Party should have recognized the real threat that Trump 2 presents, as I did, as many others did, and forced Biden out, forced Biden to step aside. But instead, they propped up Biden at a time when myself and many other people could see that he was senile all the way back in 2019, all the way back in 2020. There were people who actually rang the alarm bells, if you remember. People like, what's the Texas guy? Castro. It was, here, look at this.
Barack Obama's vision was not to leave 10 million people uncovered. He wanted every single person in this country covered.
September 12, 2019, here you have Julian Castro literally questioning Biden's senility in 2019.
My plan would do that. Your plan would not.
They do not have to buy in. They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies for Medicaid,
are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Are you
forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago?
Yeah, they packed his ass up for that, by the way. The Democratic Party and its machine is so nefarious that they saw this as a major threat to the one guy that actually was saying the truth on that stage, because they saw Biden as the only option to rally around, against Bernie. They were so terrified of Bernie Sanders potentially coming out of that primary as the victor and having to change the trajectory of the Democratic Party in a way that actually is progressive, in a way that moves towards an ambitious social democratic expansion of welfare and social safety nets, that instead of that, they literally turned around and they were like, we have to do everything we can to make sure that this does not happen. And Brandon was the guy that they presented as the alternative. He had the name recognition. He was Obama's vice president. He was the best possible person to do this. And the media offered multiple billions of dollars worth of organic and native advertising after a predictable victory that came in from South Carolina. All of this played a role in Biden actually seizing tremendous victories on Super Tuesday, changing the tide of the primaries. They all knew he was old and decrepit, and yet they still pushed him. They still pushed him aggressively, and then they maintained this idea that Biden was perfectly fine, and he had incredible motivation. He was not senile. His brain was totally fine. Here's Matt Stoller correctly pointing out, Democratic insiders know Biden has cognitive decline issues. They joke about it. They don't care. Neera Tanden, this is beneath you. Block. Folks, this is the only way to handle this nonsense. The Sanders outreach continues, I see. I wonder why you're losing. Khanna continued, in light of what has come out, it is painfully obvious President Biden should not have run. He said his party played too much deference to party leaders, not to the old guard, to the advisors, and needed to be more independent. The Democratic Party played the role that it always is supposed to play, the role that it's perhaps most equipped to play, which is to present a real hurdle against any sort of real left politics. They shut off any kind of ambitious social democratic option because that was terrifying for them. And in that process, Biden mismanaged the country and engaged in Biden mismanaged the country, was a horrible communicator at a time when there needed to be a uniting figure. Pair that up with negative real wage growth for almost 2 years under the Brandonian leadership. And also to perfectly tie that up with the endless genocide of the Palestinian population in real time that every American could see, and a genuine inability to address such problems, a genocide that we are actually paying for with our tax dollars. Biden oversaw all of that, refused to drop out, refused to recognize the writing on the wall, and handed the keys of the castle to the Republicans. Remember a month ago when an article came out saying that Biden wanted to help Dems and they avoided him? Now they have to address this against their will because they do not want to be associated with them. That's how bad a decision he made. I think Democrats should be ruthless and be like, yeah, he was. I mean, they are going to use flowery language to whitewash and launder his reputation. But this article almost certainly came out after his diagnosis. The Bidens want back in? No, that is insane. No way. Do we know exactly when the diagnosis came out? because that is so psychotic. If he knew he had like prostate cancer and he's still like, I'm coming back in, Jack. I'm sick in the head. Yeah, it's just like, it's yet another idiotic moment where the Democrats will look so silly, will look so stupid if they entertain this, especially because that association will continue with Biden, and that association will remind average Americans what they saw and the inconsistency of what they heard from the Democrats in terms of Biden's brain processing power. This is why I'm saying, like, just say, oh, cancer is really mean and really sad, and then leave it at that. If you talk about how wonderful of a statesman he was, then all of a sudden you're all of a sudden going to keep reminding people that, like, you defended his diminished capacity. It only serves as further evidence that you are an unserious person, only interested in maintaining your grip of power. CNN says the 16th article was 2 months ago. Yeah, no, I don't. The article doesn't match up with the timeline. He said that, and then he found out that he has cancer. That's what happened. You talking about people remembering, but how many people remember Trump's lies, though? Dude, to address you have to remember, the people that are pro-Trump don't give a shit that he's lying. They're stupid, and they're in a fucking cult. Okay, we're talking about independents. We're talking about, like, average Americans, people who don't vote, and people who do vote, but for the Democratic Party, even if they hold their nose and vote. There is no way to convince the Republicans. Who cares what they think? They're an insane death cult at this point. They look at the way they handled the tariff stuff. They would regularly turn around and be like, nah, it's actually tariffs are awesome. Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, now that you took away the tariffs, art of the deal, baby. Like, you can't have a normal conversation with these people. You can't have normal expectations from these people. They are fucking insane. It's also a problem that is plaguing the Democratic Party. Age and the diminished capacity of the elderly in the gerontocracy that is the Democratic Party is legitimately one of the most visible parts of this party. The Democrats, I always say, have a crisis in branding because they don't have any sort of discernible policies that you can point to in the way that, like, Bernie does, right? Bernie's old as too. The Democrats are in a crisis of branding. If you are to look at it in sociopathic terms, I guess, their branding crisis revolves around their lack of interest in being associated with any sort of real progressive policies that they genuinely are pushing for. But then outside of that, this is the type of shit they're associated with. Just like defending old people because they're in power. With the Dianne Feinsteins of the world, with the Brandons of the world, you know, is terrible.
It says it appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. But again, quite concerning that it has. She's 87.
This was who was going to.
The former president has maintained a relatively
leader of the House Oversight Committee
leaving office in January. But we have started to see him
after the
previous on the world stage. He attended
after the previous one, literally had cancer and couldn't do his job because of cancer. Remember, Nancy Pelosi actively undermined AOC's chances of being the leader of the House Oversight Committee. And the Democrats listened to Speaker Emeritus. From her hospital bed, Nancy Pelosi pushed for it. Yeah, Piers Morgan is in his feelings. I'm going to block anyone I see, and there's already a lot of this vile crap flying around, mocking, celebrating, or playing partisan politics with Joe Biden's health news. The man has served his country for 50 years and is fighting for his life. Show some bloody respect. Yeah, he served his country for 50 years to do what?
I would tell them, look, we have a lot to do now. We'll take things one at a time, and we'll pick a comprehensive cancer center to help structure your treatment. And I'm sure that's what President Biden's team is doing. They're looking for a comprehensive cancer.
Like, I don't, God, not only do I not care because this is happening in the backdrop of Biden's actions and his gross ambition to continue starving the Palestinian population and killing them directly has led to tens of thousands of Palestinians not being able to get this kind of medical care coverage. But Biden also, for 50 years, was a very ambitious person, was able to basically hold on to the grips of power and became the president and used that opportunity to do a metric ton of evil. And on top of that, he is going to have platinum healthcare coverage. There are people in this country right now that have cancer, that have the same type of cancer that Joe Biden has, that are spending their last moments not with their families, but instead talking to insurance agents. Like, who we show what level of support and civility to is so busted in this country, is so broken. Biden directly ran and lied, by the way. Remember when he said he was going to do public option? That was a fucking lie. Biden directly ran against Bernie because the signature policy of the Bernie Sanders populist left was Medicare for all. Never forget that. And every single person that also was antagonistic to said Medicare for all, the ambitions of moving towards Medicare for all, rallied around Biden. This is what the Democratic Party did, knowing full well that his brain was doo-doo. So yeah, it's very, very, very difficult for me to have even a fraction of sympathy for this war criminal, even if you are to cover it from the perspective only of domestic policies, even if you think like Palestinians are nothing and they deserve less and they are deserving of their fate because you're a disgusting little freak, a bloodthirsty little monster, then even on the domestic agenda front, what the Democratic Party did specifically in terms of placing Brandon as a hurdle against like real leftist policies that the Democrats never wanted to subscribe to, his legacy and his presidential run is so that you couldn't get any health care whatsoever. Your ass spent years on how old Joe Biden is. Yeah, and so many people also turned around and said I was wrong for this, you know, for saying the truth. Oh, Van Jones is on talking about Biden. Is he going to cry? Oh, my God. Is he going to cry? Did he cry already?
Praying for him as he is pulled for and prayed for.
I'm
so many
sorry.
others.
I'm interrupting the Daily Wire broadcast for a brief moment. I have to see this motherfucker cry a little bit.
I covered him. I heard all these stories, but just you have personal stories about how he'd pick up the phone and call people, members of someone's family that are dealing with a cancer diagnosis or who are in need of somebody to comfort them or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, he's
oh my God, the amount of glaze CNN is doing on Biden is so funny.
Him really getting behind the cancer.
This also presents Jake Tapper in a unique predicament, in a unique position, because like he literally is ass blasting, no pun intended, Joe Biden right now because of his own career ambitions. Him and Alex Thompson have gotten together and written a book. Alex Thompson was one of the reporters that actually criticized Biden's age. Jake Tapper came in after the fact, after everybody was on board. Having said that, Jake Tapper, ever the ambitious media demon he is, has joined in on the fun of ass blasting Joseph Robinette Brandon. Again, no pun intended. And therefore, this is going to kind of ruin their book tour, I think, because they're going to turn around and say like, oh, dude, look at this. You're releasing this book. Joe Brandon is not even dead yet. He can read it. Like, you're going to attack a man with cancer?
Now is 38 years old. Joe Biden has been in public life for 50 years, so longer than most Americans have been alive. Joe Biden has been walking the halls, marble halls, pressing the flesh, trying to get things done for Americans. Cancer is just one of the many causes that he has championed, but this one now strikes very close to home.
Yeah, I think we do have a clip of him talking about this. I want to just play it.
The fight against cancer, the fight to eliminate racial disparities in cancer. And
claims he wants to fight against cancer, gets cancer.
Unwilling to postpone.
Okay, I don't care. Him saying he's going to fight against cancer is meaningless. Everybody says that. Dude, saying he's going to cure cancer was one of his dumbest campaign promises. Who gives a f? Anyway, I'm sorry to see this news. Cancer is truly awful. My dad passed away in 2021 with cancer. Praise for Joe Biden and his family. Nope. I hope Jill is next. What did Jill do to you? President Trump reacts to the news of former President Biden cancer diagnosis. Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family. We wish Joe a fast and successful. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I would have expected Trump to be like, to at least have one snide remark in there. Yeah, he didn't write this. Come on. You didn't expect a haha, you got cancer from Trump? From Trump? Dude, I absolutely expected him to say something snide. And by the way, tomorrow's Monday. He's going to be in front of cameras. They're going to ask him about Biden's cancer diagnosis. Just wait. If you think Donald Trump off prompter is not going to say some snide remarks about Joe Biden getting cancer, we shall see. We shall see. But I absolutely would expect him to be at least a little catty, for sure. In his eyes, Joe Biden literally, and the Department of Justice under Joe Biden did lawfare against him. He stole the election from him. Are you kidding me? He is Satan's very own soldier. Biden, I mean. Okay, law. No, I definitely expect him to say something. I expect him to say like something snide. Like, I hope he has more time to recover instead of trying to ruin the Democratic Party further. Something like that. You know what I mean? I can see that. He's not going to say something too crazy. He's not going to come out and be like, yeah, he sucked. I'm glad that happened or whatever. Yeah, something like, he may be crooked Joe, but I wish him a straight recovery. Something like that. Even that. Or defending his position, saying, I told you he was too old. This guy was so old. The Democrats propped him up. Knowing he was so old, they probably gave him cancer. Nancy Pelosi gave Joe Biden cancer. Believe it. And they tried to come after me too. They shot me. They shot me in the ear. Only got ear cancer. Defeated it. Just like I defeated COVID, which is fake. But also a Chinese bioweapon. My own health. I'm a beacon of health. As you know. The lying news media kept covering for Joe Brandon, saying that Joe Biden was actually healthy. They kept saying, I was the unhealthy one. Well, whose prostate is the size of a walnut now, Joe? Okay, maybe he won't go that far, but I had Vladimir Putin, 1 finger, 2 fingers, sometimes 3. Let me tell you, things are great down there. Things are great. Oh no, frames are dropping. I went too far.